So I'm gonna like take you back pretty far because it is like a long and windy story here. And then we will kind of like talk about like the points of it, because I feel like this story for me was almost like the living, breathing example of like so many of the things that I believe in and teach, and like that we used to teach about in Happy Magic, all of those kind of things. But you know, it's like one thing when you have a bunch of those experiences on a smaller scale. And I feel like for me, this was on a really big scale, like in terms of like both like time and like, you know, thing that was manifested and stuff like that. So, you know, it was just kind of like cool to see it in action in a new way. So excited to like take you through that and like the points that I felt like really stuck out to me. Hey guys, hey Linz, hey Alessia, hey Patricia. Oh, so fun. I'm so excited to share this with y'all. Okay, so hey Michelle. So basically the story starts in that Kenny and I in the very beginning of 2021, so like right after we got married, decided to purchase an investment property. And we were going to Airbnb it and have an investment property. So we weren't planning on moving out of our current house real soon, but we knew like we might want to in the near future because we were planning on having a baby. But that still was like a little ways away. And so we were like, okay, in the meantime, we're going to focus on getting this investment property. So yes, I love home manifestation stories. So I'm like excited to get to share my own. So we decided to get this investment property. So we looked at a bunch of houses. We actually so Kenny went and saw one and I couldn't go that day. And he was like, I really think this is a good one. Let's get it. And I was like, well, like, I trust you. You know, it's not like I'm living. So we moved forward, put an offer on, got it accepted. And then when we had inspection, our inspector was like, I can like literally put my finger through the main beam running under your house. Like that's how bad it is. So like I would recommend backing out. And so we did. So we backed out of that house. Hi, Sabs. You know most of this story, but it would probably be fun to hear. Hey, Jen. So we backed out of that one. And then we went and looked at a bunch more together. And we walked into this one house and I was just like everything in my body, my gut, everything was like, this is the house. And Kenny was like, kind of like, cool, hear you. But like, we have a bunch of other ones to look at, like, give it a sec. And I was like, nope, this is it. I'm sure I'll entertain you if you want me to go to the other ones, but like this one's the one, right? Felt so strongly about it. Like when I walked out of that house, some of you might have heard me even talk about this on Happy Thought Show, I think, because that's how long ago it was. But when I walked out of that house, I was literally like, bye, I'll be back. You're my house. Like, I know. And so I think we went to like one more property and in the car, I was like, nope, still the one. And Kenny's like, are you serious? Do you really just not want to go to the other ones? You just want to make an offer on this one? I was like, yep, that's it. So that's like, I'm demonstrating that because that's how certain I was. Like, I knew that was, sorry, my Kirby's making a cameo. I knew that was supposed to be our house, right? Hi, Maggie. Yeah, when you know, like that, it was just that level of certainty, right? So oh my gosh, that's so funny, Rach. I love that. Oh my gosh, I totally get you. And like similar, I kind of knew it was coming. I can't wait to tell that part. So anyway, like my gut was like on fire for this house, right? So amazing. We get the house, we like do all this stuff, like we fully furnished it. We're going to do a short-term rental Airbnb. We fully furnished it. It was such a beautiful house. It was like a 1912, 22, I can't remember, 1922, 1912, which a bungalow in Tampa and like a really good location, up and coming area. I was just like so pumped about it. Fully furnished the whole thing. Kenny's over there one day. He like built a beautiful fireplace in the backyard. He's over there one day and someone knocks on the door and is like, hey, you have what is it called? Oh my God, I can't even think of what it's called now. I should know this because we've been through the fucking ringer, but basically, it was the county, and like we didn't have like a permit to be working on the house. And Kenny was like, oh, I'm not like working on the house. I'm just like building a fireplace out back. And the guy was like, no, I think you're misunderstanding. Like, you have open permits, they're not closed out. Like, you don't even have a CO, which, like, if you've never bought a house, it's like certificate of occupancy. Like, you don't even have a CO for this home. So technically, like, it's illegal that you're like even living here. And we're like, oh, we're not living here, but like, also that's a really big problem. Like, we definitely need a CO, and like understood that we bought a house with that. So to make like an exceptionally long story short for this part, the homeowners that originally sold it to us basically sold it to us fraudulently, and told us and the title company and real estate agents and everything that all permits were closed, and even gave us fraudulent documentation supporting that, because we're not idiots, and we're not like, oh, okay, great, we're going to trust you. We were like, okay, we want proof. And like, they did give us proof, but it was not real. So we couldn't like rent that house out at all, couldn't do anything with it. It was like super stressful, because I think when that happened was when we got the like, hey, you don't even have a CO, was May maybe, and then we ended up getting pregnant in July. So like, it was like there was a lot going on there. And since it was like not like a house we were renting, it was like a house that we had a mortgage on, we had to keep paying that whole time, because like, I'm not going to like have my credit ruined or like foreclose on this house or whatever. So long story short, like, we went through all of this stuff with the county. They really tried to have our back. They like actually let us like, keep our things there and didn't make us like do any of that. But they were like, hey, just from looking at the outside, like, this house probably needs $60,000 worth of correction on work that wasn't done well. And also we found out, which was not disclosed to us, that the house actually had an entire bathroom and bedroom as an addition. We didn't know there was an addition made on the house. And the county was like, that may have to get ripped out because it wasn't permitted and it wasn't done to code. So like, we're talking about like lots of money here on the table. Like, it wasn't like, oh, whatever, there's like, a few $1,000s in upgrades that need to happen. It was like, they were talking like, 60 just from what they could see. And then obviously with like thinking about an addition, ripping out an addition, we're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Kenny and I were like, well, fuck this. Like, this is not like, we got this to be an investment property. We didn't get this to like pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into a house that like we bought, assuming that like we paid a price, assuming that work was done. You know what I mean? So we had to get an attorney. The previous like owner was not speaking to us. They weren't talking to us. They were like avoiding things. It was like terrible. And so what I really want to share about this part is like, this made me like second guess myself so bad, because I was like, I felt fucking certain we were supposed to have this house. And like, Kenny was certainly like never put the blame on me in any way, shape, or form, and was like super like on board with the decision too. But like, at the end of the day, like, I was the advocate for that house. Like, I was like, this is it. I know it for sure. Right. And so I had like a lot of guilt about that. I had a lot of like second guessing of myself going on, like a lot of like, was that gut? Did I just get caught up in the moment? Like, I was so sure what was happening. And like, it really impacted like how I was thinking about things for a little bit, especially because not only were we then paying the mortgage on that house, plus like utilities and everything else, but we were also paying legal fees, like thousands of dollars in legal fees every month down, trying to handle what had happened, right? So this turned out to like not be an investment. It turned out to be like a huge money pit for us for a while. Now, I can see the light in that. I'm so glad it happened to us and not like a family that had bought that as their main home, because I can't imagine what someone would have done in that situation. I've thought about that extensively and been like, someone would have already moved in. Like, how could this have happened for them? Like, thank God we bought it as an investment property. Thank God we had the cash flow to continue to pay for it, to pay for legal fees, all of those things. Like, I feel really glad that we were able to maybe like be the ones to deal with that, because I think like we were in a position where it was like something we could manage and deal with, although very frustrating. So then I'm like pregnant through most of this and feeling like really irritated the whole time. And just feeling like it was like almost like a full-time job kind of thing, like to babysit like what was going on in this process and our attorneys and all of the things. Yes, Chris and I talked about this on Happy Thoughts. Hey, Vidali. Love how you see the upside of this. Thank you, Sabrina. Well, I've had a lot of time and perspective. I love that you guys know each other, Lisa. That's so cool. Thank you, Navika. Yes, did try to think about that several times, but also one of our friends had to move out of their house, and so we let them stay there for a time being. So there were like blessings in it, but it was still like super fucking frustrating. And basically what it came down to is like our only option that really existed on the table was to put all the updates into the house, get everything done ourselves, which like made no sense. And just ask Kenny to take the dog who is crying. Put all those updates in, which made no sense because it's an investment property. It's not like we want to live there long term, all of that kind of stuff, or to return the house to the original owner, basically. But it was super frustrating to think about doing that because we had already like furnished the whole house and put all of that into it. Plus, it had like Tampa real estate market had gone crazy since we bought it. So there was a lot of equity in the house, and we'd been paying for like utilities and all of that kind of stuff. And it had been, an investment property. So like the fact that that money was sitting there and like not doing anything is like super frustrating. Right. So our only option was to like, forget what they called it, but like basically you like go back to the original state of the contract. So basically getting them to buy it back for what we had paid, which like, fine. We like, that would have like, we were happy to get out of the house, but that felt like such a hit when it was like, gosh, we've been sitting on this for like almost a year. We're paying all these legal fees. And now we're just going to basically like go back to like pre-contract status, which means like they're just paying for, like what had happened and not really damages. So that was super frustrating. And our lawyer at the time was like, it's probably going to go to court. Like you're probably not even going to be able to settle out of court. So we just felt like backed into such a corner there. But then a few things happened. So one, we got a new lawyer who, I'm just going to say it, happened to be a woman who got some shit done for us. Loved her. And she really negotiated to keep us out of court, which I super, super appreciate. And ended up negotiating that they would buy the house back without us having to go to court. So that, okay, great. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to a win. Oh, I'm so glad you're new here, Manali. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Angela, it's so freaking frustrating. So we're getting closer to a win, right? But then we had about 6, maybe, I think, false starts of like thinking they were going to buy it back, and then them saying like, oh, but we can't, or the money's not here right now, or but we didn't get this paper signed, or but we didn't have it. So there were like, so keep in mind, this was like 2021 March when we bought it. So we had all of these false starts in probably like July to August of this year, which was also a very hard time for me, by the way, because that is when my dad passed. That is when I went back to work from maternity leave. There was just like so much going on. So it took almost a year and a half to get to the like negotiating point of them agreeing to do this, right? So we're paying like the mortgage and like all the things and all the lawyer fees and everything for a year and a half. Then finally they agreed to buy it back, and she negotiated that they would buy it back at an elevated price that included our legal fees. So that was super exciting for us because obviously that had been like the biggest expense. So they were going to buy it back with our legal fees included and all of the mortgage that we'd been paying. So we were like, okay, yes, this is finally moving. Like, so grateful we got it, the right attorney, right? Exactly. Woman lawyer gets shit done. Exactly. So glad we got her. So eternally grateful for her. But then there were like 5 or 6 times, I think 6 maybe, but I can't remember exactly, where it was like, we're closing today, we're not, we're closing today, we're not, we're closing today, we're not. So that went on for probably a couple months of all this, like, it's happening, it's not. And then we got to this point where our lawyer was basically like, listen, if one more of these happens, we can't keep going back and forth because like we also had like a plan with the court. And so it's like we had to start following that plan and like move forward with some of those steps. I don't understand all the legal pieces of it, but it was basically like if we had one more of those like not happen, then we were going to have to go this different route, which would have taken at least 6 months. So Kenny and I were basically like, fuck, we're looking at another 6 months of this. This is absolutely wild. And I just like felt this like thing inside me where I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, no, I'm done with this. Like, I feel like sometimes we have to get to that, like, I'm fucking done moment. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know why it took me that long to get there, but I was like, had other things going on last year. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, this is not happening. We are closing. Like, that's it. And we did. So it like felt like it wasn't going to happen. And then like all of a sudden we finally did. We like got the money, got the house off our plate. And it was like such a relief, like so crazy. But I still felt like a weirdness around the fact that like I was so sure we should get this. And like, yes, we walked away without having lost a ton. I mean, yeah, we had lost because we had furnished the house, but we sold some of those pieces, gave some away, like it worked out, right? But we lost like everything we could have been doing with that money in that time. And the house appreciated, gosh, in the Tampa real estate market, I think it went up by almost like 150K in equity. So like it felt like we lost out on all of that too. So as much as I was like happy, it still felt like a little bit of like a hard pill to swallow. Yes, she was such an angel, such a roller coaster. So it felt like kind of a hard pill to swallow still, just being like, gosh, my gut was so sure. And like, we're walking away like relatively unscathed, but like, damn, that was a lot. And yeah, exactly, Michelle. And there was so much of our time, energy, and effort that went into that. And it was just like, oh, it was still really hard for me to kind of like process through that, but fine. Like we were out of it. Great. And then, so that happened on a Wednesday. On the next day, on Thursday, I woke up that morning and just like all of a sudden my like gut was speaking to me so strongly again. And I was like, oh my God, our next house is like ready for us. So the backstory on that is that we've been looking for a house for us to move into for probably a couple years too. Really, so less than a couple years since I got pregnant. We knew like we'd eventually want like more space. And then also at the time when my dad was ill, we really wanted somewhere where like that had like a mother-in-law or an in-law suite so that they could live with us so we could help take care of him. But then also once he passed, we really wanted my mom to know that she had somewhere to live eventually. So we've always been looking for a house with an in-law suite in mind, which like is relatively more challenging to find than you would think. And then also like finding one that like meets our requirements for an in-law suite and meets our requirements for like what we want as a family together was like feeling super challenging. There was one house we almost bought when I was like 34 weeks pregnant, which thank God we didn't because I had been at 38 weeks. But and just like we almost pulled the trigger just out of like practically this is like as close as we're gonna get probably is what we were thinking. But like there were so many things that would have had to like gotten done and upgraded and stuff like that. And so we ended up not. We've been looking for this for like a while, like really since we knew my dad was ill. And even before that, we'd kind of been looking for our family and stuff for a new place. So it was really hard to find. And also like real estate prices have gone up so considerably in Tampa. It's crazy. So, you know, there was just like a lot of balancing going on. But anyway, so I woke up on that Thursday right after we closed and I was like, I feel like our house is like ready for us. And so I said to Kenny that night, I was like, our house is near, I feel it. And he was kind of like, I love you, I hear you. But like, we had just not that long ago gone through like almost putting an offer on that one. And when we walked away from that one, we were kind of like, all right, well, you're just going to have to chill for a little bit because if it's not this one, it's probably not any, because that was like by far the closest we've gotten. So we were sort of like resigned to the fact that like it probably wasn't going to happen at that point. We were just going to have to wait for a while. We had been looking at other places to get for my mom. Anyway, so he was kind of like lovingly like, I hear you, but like, you know, we've kind of exhausted all options there. So anyway, the next day, Friday, our house that we're in now goes on the market. And I saw it and I sent it to Kenny and I'm like, oh my God, like this might be our house. And Kenny is very, like, pretty much any house I sent him, he's like, no, very particular, very picky. And he was like, oh, like, seems like a really good house. And it had an open house the next day. So we were like, okay, well, like, we'll go, we'll see, whatever. But it was quite top of our price range. So we were like, oh, like, whatever, it'd have to like blow us out of the fucking water. So anyway, we go. Oh, I'm forgetting an important part of the story. Meanwhile, like, we don't love to have a lot of cash sitting there. We love to do things with it. So when we had gotten that cash from the sale of the house, or, you know, resale of the old house, we had already made a plan for what we were going to do with it. And we were going to do it the following week. So we closed on a Wednesday. And the following week, we had a plan of like, okay, here's what we're going to do with that extra cash, right? So anyway, this house goes on market Friday. We go to look at it Saturday. Kenny gets there before me because we had to drive separately for something. And he texts me and he was like, oh my God, like, wait till you see this house. So Bennett and I get there and just walked in and was like, oh shit, like, okay. And just like, Kenny was the first one here and we were just like, oh my gosh, like, this is our house. So we were like talking to the realtor, that was here for the open house. And we were like, really, this is our house. Like, don't let anyone else in. Like, we're good. We got it. Can we get a home tour and fully invested in the visuals? Yes, totally. You can get a home tour. I will have to do that. I need to. It's really cool. So we're like, okay, this is it. So anyway, just like context here, that was like, think about the fact that like this was very, very top of our price range, and we would not have had the free cash, like the actual cash there to close if we had not just gotten rid of that other house. Like, we would have, I mean, like, we had the money, but it would have been like in stocks or in investments, or like, it wouldn't have been like just like liquid cash that we could use immediately to close. I would have never kept that much liquid cash available at all. So the exact amount that we had like already put away for a house, plus that on top of it, was the exact amount that it was going to cost to close on this house, or to like put a down payment and close. We were like, fuck, like, that's so wild that we had a year and a half of this. We had 2 months of false starts. We get the exact amount that we need 2 days or a day before this house goes on the market, right? Like, mind blowing. So we put an offer in. Our real estate agents were like, you should go over ask, because there's a lot of interest on this house, and there's like people that are making offers that haven't even seen it in person. We were like, oh shit, like, we only have so much room to go over ask there. This house is already like pretty far at the top end of what we were thinking. So we put in the offer that we could put in. And then I wrote a letter, because like, that felt really important to me, to be like, you don't understand, like, this is supposed to be our house. Like, that, like, let's get on the same page. Like, this is our house. So I just like wrote a letter and we put in the offer we could, and we asked them if they would give us a response that day, because we obviously like wanted to like give them a reason to like quickly make a decision. Yes, synchronicities. Oh, so good, Hannah. Yeah, it's so freaking perfect. It's crazy. So we asked them to tell us that day. They absolutely did not. And they were basically like, thanks for your request, but like, fuck no, we'll tell you tomorrow. And they had another open house the next day, I think. So we found out that they had 4 other offers on it, and we were like, oh, they're not telling us today. Plus they have 4 other offers. Like, so Kenny and I are having this conversation, and I'm like, I just feel like this is supposed to be our house. And I turn and look out our back window, and I see like a giant rainbow, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. I just said that, and then I saw it, like, it's a sign. Again, Kenny's lovingly like, I hear you. It's okay. Like, if we get it, great. It might not be it. We'll see. So we don't hear anything. It's like 8:00 the next night. And I'm like dying here. So I text our real estate agent. I'm like, listen, is no news good news at this point, or what's going on? And she's like, it's so wild that you just text me this second, because I just got off the phone with the other real estate agent and they accepted your offer. So crazy. So turns out they did have 4 other offers and took ours. But what I did not know until I came here, on our inspection, I came here and the owner of the home was here, and she told me that actually every other offer was for more than ours. Every other person put in a higher offer than we did, but no one else wrote a letter. And she said, like, that did it for her. Like, that's what made her pick us. She didn't care that the other offers were higher. She just like was really touched by that. And yeah, so like, how crazy is that? Like, especially when you're selling like a house of that, you know, like that level of importance to you. Like, you would think she would be like, okay, like, thanks, but like, it definitely matters that I have 3 offers that are like worth more than yours. But no, she like picked us, and I was like, so cool. So yeah, like that's sort of, I'm sure I left a few pieces out, but it just felt like so crazy how this happened. Like, and it just was so interestingly affirming for me to be like, my gut was right all along, because if things had worked out literally any different than they had, like if we had kept that house, if we had like closed at a different time, if like we never had all those issues, whatever, like we literally wouldn't have had the cash sitting there to get this house. And so it just felt like the craziest, like most divine timing ever. That happened in the way that it did. Everybody's saying everything always works out perfectly for you. That's so true. That's like, I mean, we know this is my mantra, right? So more proof of your writing skills. Yeah, exactly. So it was like so crazy for me, because it's like for a while I had been like looking for what was the reasoning, and I had like talked to so many people. I remember talking to Sarah and being like, I'm just going to have to write this one off as something that like I may never know why my gut spoke up to me at that moment. Like, I'm just going to have to be okay with like the not knowing why that was the thing. And like, she was kind of like, yeah, like you're just going to have to like let that one go kind of thing. And it was so cool, because I did let it go to the best of my abilities. Right. And then to be like, oh, there was a reason. I just had to wait a long time to see it, was really, really crazy. But like, has been so affirming for me to be like, yes, like, because one of the things I've always said is like, my gut has never led me wrong. And I felt like, okay, well, like maybe I have to reframe this as like, it wasn't wrong, but da, da, da. And I was like doing all this work to be like, how can I still trust myself through this? How can I still trust my gut through this? And so like, I'm glad I had to do all of that work, but it's also really nice to be on the other side of being like, my gut was fucking right. Like, that house was like our placeholder to get this. And like, there's no other way it could have worked out. Oh, and I think like, I didn't say this part, but like it had a mother-in-law suite. So the woman who lived here, this house was only built 3 years ago, and she built it for 2.5 years. Like, this was supposed to be like her, family's dream home. There was a mother-in-law suite her mother was in, but like different things happened and changed in her life. And so they actually ended up wanting another house. But she had put like so much of her heart and soul into this. And so it felt like she had like literally almost like built it for us. Do you know what I mean? And like she, once we met and talked about why she picked us and all of that, and she really like affirmed that for me. She was like, I forgot how she said it, but she was basically like, it feels like I built this for your family. It's like, thank you. Because I would have never had the like time or patience to do any of that. So thank you. Yeah, Michelle, so much was learned from this experience. I'm going to like share some of that, because I feel like that's like what I mostly I wanted to share the story with you, but I also want you to take that away. But like, yeah, so it was like really cool, because it felt like she like literally built this for us kind of. And like, it has mother-in-law suite. So my mama knows she can move in here anytime she's ready. So much more space for Bennett. He has like been so happy being here because we have like a lot of yard space and can be outside with him all the time. And just, it's been so cool. But it's like just so nice to have that like a redemption moment of like, my gut was right all along, right? Sobbing over this woman, I know. Same. I every time I see her, I cry. She's so sweet about it. See, I like this. So sweet. Oh, makes me emotional. She's so precious. I know. It's so cool. It makes me emotional too, because they had a loss in their family around the same time we did. So it was just like meant to be. It really was. It was so crazy. Okay. I'm going to get it back together. What did you learn is the ultimate question for someone with a 3-line? What is the ultimate question? Michelle, tell me what you mean by what is the ultimate question? Oh, I get what you're saying. I get how you're saying it. What did you learn is the ultimate question. Yes, I get it. Same. Thank you guys. So things I learned. Trust your fucking gut. But also know that like it will take time for it to show up. Like I've never really had to have quite as much belief as I did in this situation that I didn't like totally fuck up. Do you know what I mean? Like to be like, okay, like we put all this money on the line. We like, you know, had all this legal issue. We had so much time and energy into this, and like to keep believing that like you didn't get it wrong and you didn't fuck it up, even when like everything seems to indicate that you got it wrong and fucked it up, is so important. And it's just such a reminder of business. I feel like it's so easy to do that to ourselves and to go down that road and that story of like, I got it wrong, I messed it up. So like that was such a big lesson, is like, how long can you hold believing that it's working and that you're getting it right and that it's all working out perfectly? Because right, like you guys know, my biggest mantra is everything always works out perfectly for me. Like having to believe that that was true in the midst of all of that was really hard, because it for sure did not seem like that at all. And just like having to like do the work of that almost every day, to be like, I forgive myself if I did, but also I didn't, was really, really important. Another thing is just like my hardest thing, but always my best thing, which is like always surrender. You know, there was just so many points in this where there was just like nothing I could do about it. Nothing I could like fix or control or whatever. Like it just was what it was for a really long period of time when we were going through all of this like negotiation and all of this legal stuff. And, you know, just having to like surrender into that as opposed to like fight it so hard, because I definitely started out at the beginning fighting it really hard. I'm sure I drove our lawyers crazy at the beginning because I was like on fire. And then I had to just kind of be like, okay, like this just is what it is. And like, I'm going to let it go and surrender to that. And for me in business, that's always what works the best too. Whenever I'm like, okay, like I want this outcome and I'm surrendering everything about it, is like so important. I constantly think about that Michael Singer quote. It actually was the screensaver on my phone for so long, but of course now that I'm a mom, it's Bennett. But it was, the quote is, serve what's put in front of you and surrender everything it stirs up within you. And this was like the ultimate version of that for me, I think, because it was like this thing that was put in front of me, and it was bringing up a lot in me of like feeling like I got it wrong, feeling like, you know, I didn't know if I could trust my gut, feeling like I, you know, put our family in a tough position, on and on and on and on, right? And then also I was like kind of dealing with, you know, like everything with my dad being sick and losing him and all of that. And like, you know, that makes you kind of untrustworthy of life a little bit sometimes too. And so it was just like, I really had to keep committing to the idea of like, I trust myself, I trust life, and I surrender to that. So that was like the most work last year, but it's work that has really paid off, like not just paid off in the fact that like it's amazing to have this house and it's just a dream, right? But it's really paid off in the sense of like I feel more aligned to like trusting myself in life than I ever have because of that. And then another one was like, take the gamble. I think that on a couple of things, like one is like I think an easy takeaway would be like, oh my God, no investments ever, no like risk with investments, like I don't regret that at all now. Like I'm so glad we took the risk and like went full out on that investment initially, and then also take the gamble in terms of the fact that like we knew our offer was probably not going to be the highest. And we knew there were a lot of other offers. And so instead of just bowing out and being like, whatever, they're not going to pick us, who cares? Like being like, let me take the gamble anyway. Like this could work out in ways that I could have never expected. Like I would have never expected that she would have been like, oh, you know what? Like fuck all this other like extra money I could get. Like I pick you guys, right? Like I could have never thought of that. And so just like taking the gamble anyway. Hannah says surrender is so hard, and it's hard to remember that you wanting something, trying to control something doesn't make it happen more faster. It's very, very true. Sounds super easy for someone who likes control. I know, right? Kristen's like the actual hardest. But yeah, I think that, it doesn't mean don't take your action, right? Like we hired the attorney, we did the things but at the same time, like I think just surrendering to the idea that like I can't always push that like boulder up the mountain myself is like really helpful. And then taking the gamble, like knowing it could work out better than you could expect. I feel like that was the initial investment, that was like putting down the offer, all of those things, like this could work out better than we expected, right? And then, another one that comes up for me big time is just like play the long game. Like I feel like I talk about that in business all the time, but I feel like this was such an example of that. Like we had started looking for a house, like forever ago, because we bought that house in March and we got pregnant in July. And so pretty much right after we got pregnant, we were like, okay, we need to figure this out sort of thing. And then my dad got ill shortly after. And so then it really ramped up. Oh, I didn't even tell this part of the story. In between, I told you there was that other house that we almost put an offer on. And then there was a second house that we actually did put an offer on because it was when my dad was sort of like in the height of not doing well. And I just like wanted to have somewhere where he could be closer to us. And so it was kind of like this is not the perfect thing, but this is the closest thing. So we actually did put it down an offer and it got accepted. But then we found out that their house had an open permit on it. And we were like, oh, we don't fuck around with permits anymore. So we backed out. So even that one like was one of those, like something else almost happened. And we were almost willing to like take the best thing instead of the actual thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it would have been fine versus like, this is what we actually wanted. And honestly, it wouldn't have been better for my dad. Like that wouldn't have ultimately served him at that time. Like he really wouldn't have been able to move at that time and, all of that. So that it really wouldn't have been the best thing for us in any way, shape or form. But like the lesson from that, learning like we don't fuck with houses with open permits for this also kept us from having to get that house. That wouldn't have been the perfect thing. Does that make sense? So it's like so many things lined up to make sure that like this was the house and not something else. But again, like that's such a long game. And I think like looking at things like that is so helpful. And like, I really had to look at that old house as the like, this will pay off in ways like that I may not ever know is kind of what I came down to. But like over the long term, I'm going to assume it was for the best. And so sometimes we'll know eventually, and sometimes we won't know, but I think we have to keep playing the long game of being like, it's not just about like what happens this month or this year. I think in business, we're so used to focusing on the like short game of like, what do I make this month or whatever. which really never serves us that well. And in life, it never does either. This isn't creepy, but I regularly hear your voice in my head saying, play the long game, such a powerful lesson. That's not creepy at all. Never. That makes me so happy. Hey, Jordan. So yeah, just like the long game is where it's at. Like that's where, that's where you're gonna have the best vantage point. That's where you're gonna have the best results. Like it's crazy, but it's just insane, like the way things worked out for us with this house. In fact, it's so funny because our realtors the whole time were basically like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is wild how this is working out. And one of them, when we went to closing, one of them was even like, so like, can I hire you? Like, can I hire you tomorrow? I was like, oh, sorry, I don't have spots open. But she was like, I just want to work with you. Can I hire you? I'm like, oh, right. Probably because you're like, how in the actual fuck did this all come together? Right. But it was just like really funny. Hannah says, important question. Does it have space for your 12-foot skeleton in the front yard? Hannah, not only does it have space for our 12-foot skeleton, which if you guys don't know, that was like my big win of the year, is getting Kenny to get us one of these 12-foot skeletons. It does. It has like this, it has a circular driveway and it has like a little thing, like a little, whatever, like trees and plants and shit in the middle of it. So you could put the skeleton right in the middle of the circular driveway. So this house was basically built for a 12-foot skeleton. So thrilled about that. But yeah, just like everything, it checks just every box, which is so cool. She wants some of your magic. Yeah. Diva says you need to get behind the 400 plus on the way to this. Yeah, we need an army of them for sure, Hannah. But so yeah, it was just like funny too, to like, when I was in it, I kept feeling like, oh my God, this is magic. But like to keep having them reaffirm that for us too was really cool. To be like, oh my gosh, like magic is working for you. And then the last part, I think I forgot to say too, is like, the owner of this house had a couple of things that she had to work out. It's a long story that isn't worth telling, but to get the house sold. And so we had picked a close date, and then it kept looking like it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're hosting quite a bit of family, like from out of town for Thanksgiving. We told them they could stay here with us. So we were like, oh my God, if this closing date keeps getting moved, like we're going to have to cancel that. It also felt like a little bit triggering because we had so many false start closes with the other one. And I was just like, I don't want to go through this again. And kind of same thing. I was just like saying to Kenny and to our realtors, I'm like, nope, we're closing on this date. Like we're doing it. It's happening. We're figuring it out. And like the night before, it didn't look like we were going to. And then our realtors at like 8 p.m. were basically like, okay, everything's finalized. You can close tomorrow. So it was just so much like, this is how it's going to go, and surrendering it. And so just like remembering that surrender doesn't mean you don't still get what you want. Surrender means you believe so much in getting what you want that you let go of every bit of the details. No, I said needed to hear this today because this is the best business advice, but also for something that's been happening in my personal life. Oh, so glad to hear that. I would have needed to hear this in the middle of this. So hopefully this is your version of like, you're hearing the right thing at the right time and it's all working out perfectly for you. Oh, good. Kristen, I'm so glad that this, well, not that you're having a house issue, but that this could be very helpful to you in that. But yeah, like surrender is this thing I'm so locked in on that I'm going to let go of every single thing that says that might not happen. And so that's really what I like worked on once this house was like in our sphere. I even had like a little sticky note on my computer, like on my laptop, that said house visualization, and just reminded me. And every day I would take like 5 minutes to be like, I'm in the house, I'm in that kitchen, I'm doing the thing. And it meant so much to me because it's not just about having like a really beautiful home, although yes, but it's about like where Bennett's going to grow up. So that felt super, super beautiful and important to me. And it's also is about giving my mom somewhere where she knew she could go. So like, I just really felt into the deeper feelings of it. Like, yes, I like the countertop in our kitchen or whatever, but I like really tried to lock into like those deeper pieces of like, this is what it means for our family. This is what it feels like in all of these ways, Angela said, your story is perfect timing with a similar journey I'm on in land we purchased years ago, and our plans to build on it. Also dealt with some legal issues, attorneys in the city for 2+ years, plus home builder curveballs. Oh, Angela, we were so close to starting the build, but still waiting on that last piece to fall into place. Thank you for sharing. Angela, you are going to be in my journaling tonight. And I'm going to affirm that the exact same thing happens for you and that all of your pieces fall into place. Lynn says, good message of my upcoming move to Japan. Yes, so true. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you leave Sunday. It's wild. But yeah, like that feeling of the deeper pieces, I think was so important. And I would just like visualize and feel that every day. Even if it was like 5 minutes between calls or something, I had that sticky to remind me. And I'd be like, all right, time to get locked in. And I just remember feeling like this is what I can contribute. Like I can't fix everything. I can't make all of this happen in the way I want it to happen, but the like contribution I can offer to our journey at this point is like getting locked in, visualizing, seeing what I want every day. And so like that was basically what I put into it. So, obviously that worked out. And like, I think it's one of those things too, where there's such a balance of like, this house was more than we were planning to spend on a house, but it checked all of our boxes and stuff like that. And so I also had to be like, how much do I trust my business too? Because the house that we lived in before, Kenny had bought before we were even together. So like, I had to trust my business zero, basically, right? Because he had already purchased it and like was taking care of everything. And so like, it was kind of fun to get to lean into trust for the business here in a new way too. So just sharing that too, because I feel like there are so many elements of trust that have to like come in on different things with like trusting my gut and the business and all of this stuff, right? So it was just like really cool to be able to lean into that too, because obviously I have a revenue share model. So my revenue can move with clients' revenue. And it was like, okay, do I still trust that? Do I still like trust making a big investment? And so it was like, cool to have to do that work too. But yeah, there's just been so many lessons that came up for me in this, but like the trust piece is everything, if I could like boil this all down, it's like, how much are you willing to trust your gut and for how long is kind of what felt like my lesson in this. And, there were so many times where I like started to wobble or second guess it, but at the end of the day, like that's it. And I think that's what I always want to like reinforce in business. It doesn't, what I say to my clients all the time is like, it's your job to listen to your gut and it's our job to put strategy around it, because like, let's assume our gut is always right. Even if we can't see it at the time, even if we don't know why, like, can we really double down on that assumption that like, when we have that like deep knowing within us that it's there for a reason and it's guiding us in a certain direction. So that was my lesson over the last year. And again, a very hard fought one, because I feel like I really felt some mistrust with life, even, through my dad being ill and everything, even though I'd so deeply built that like everything always works out perfectly for me mentality, and saw so much of that in what happened with my dad and so much of that in this experience. Like it really throws you when it feels like, wow, how did I get this so wrong? And so just a reminder that if you're in that moment of how did I get this so wrong, like maybe you didn't, and maybe it's working out in ways you couldn't expect, but like holding that faith is kind of everything. Sabrina, you'd love to be in my journal too. Of course, tell me what you need. Happy to put you in there. make all requests and I will write them down. But yes, so that was it. So like big lessons. What does it look like to trust your gut, even if it feels like it betrayed you, right? Like, what does it look like to surrender? And that doesn't mean the outcome, but that means the journey, right? What does it look like to take the gamble, even if it seems like it wouldn't work out? And then like, what does it look like to play the long game? I would say like, yes, I will happily put y'all in my journal, but like those would be great journal prompts as well. Because those have made all the difference for me. So that is that. I will have to, I don't know if it's a live stream situation, but I will have to do a house tour for y'all soon, but I'll just spend like a minute or two telling you about it because it's super fun. But basically, we have 1.5 acres. So that is super exciting, which like here is quite a big deal in terms of space, right? Like our old house, we were like on top of our neighbors, basically. So Bennett has like so much room to run and play. We have a beautiful pool. We have an in-law suite for my mama. Bennett has a playroom in this house. I have an office. Kenny has an office. We have a beautiful fire pit. So it's like really cool. I had one of my clients over recently. We were able to like sit out at the fire pit with like some little twinkle lights. What else can I tell you about it? I think that's it, but it's just like really, really nice. Our neighbors are so sweet. One of our neighbors has chickens, and she said Bennett can come play with her chickens anytime. Most interested in a house tour done by Bennett. Oh, that would be so cute. He seems to love it. He loves the yard so much, which makes me so happy. He's such like, sure, most babies are like this, right? But he is just a baby that thrives being outside. He's so happy when he's outside. And so just having the option to like give him that is so cool. And just like this is the other thing that our house has that is so fun. It has this gate out back basically that has a trail, and the trail goes to a grocery store and a coffee shop. And so Kenny's been wanting a golf cart for like ever. I have no idea why. We have no need for a golf cart, but he's been saying like, I'm gonna get a golf cart. I'm gonna get a golf cart. Anyway, so we like get this house, and the owner is like, you should really get a golf cart if you move here, because this trail you can take to and so now Kenny gets to like fulfill his dream and get a golf cart. And like we thought we could take Bennett to the coffee shop like every Sunday and get like donuts and coffee. And so we thought that would be like a cute tradition. So that felt like so meaningful too. There's like so many little moments of like, oh, this was supposed to be ours. So anyway, we're so excited. I'm so grateful to y'all for listening, because I just been wanting to tell that story so much, because it just felt so important to like commemorate the magic of that. So I am gonna let y'all go. I'm gonna say thank you. Oh, for listening to me today. There is also a $100 gift card that I would love to share with y'all. So if you commented at all, you'll be entered to win. But just wanted to say thank you guys for like entertaining me and listening to this today, because it really felt so meaningful to get to share. So just appreciate y'all for listening and for being here, and I love it. So I'll be back next week. Thank you guys for being here. So appreciate it. Michelle said, just expanded the possibility of how we could eventually end up somewhere that we can go to a coffee shop without a car. Yes, expand into that, Michelle. So good. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you next week. Bye, guys. Oh, have that. And if you're in the US, have a very, very, very happy Thanksgiving. All right. Love you guys. Bye.